Rainbow's eyes fluttered open. The same dull ringing in her ears from before still clouded her senses. She felt cold. Her head was burning, and her hooves couldn't stop shaking. As her surroundings got clearer, she could see that it was dark, and she was surrounded by trees and the sound of rain, which was soothing to her ears. Just then, she saw a small fire in the corner of her eye. She turned to look. All 5 soldiers were there, talking amongst themselves, as she looked into the small blaze in front of her, and then her memories came rushing back to her mind. The explosions, the screams of terror and the blood, all the gore spattered on the ground, painting the once soft sand into a thick coat of red. She quickly looked at her hooves. They were not covered in blood like they were before, but there was still some dark splats of the red fluid that stained her fur. She started to sob into her hooves as she realized that this was definitely no dream. She was in a world surrounded by war, as she already watched countless people get slaughtered in front of her eyes. Nothing could have prepared her for this horrific ordeal. Just then, the captain saw the Cheyenne filly moving, and he slowly stood up, holding an apple at his right hand, before walking over to the quivering Pegasus. The other soldiers stopped to watch as the captain placed his hand on Rainbow Dash's shoulder. "Hey, how you..." He didn't finish his sentence. Rainbow Dash screamed in anguish before smacking his hand away. Her mind was awash of anger and fear. She jumped into her hooves, her chest heaving as she gasped for air. "Get away from me, you monster! You monster!" Before the captain could react, the devastated Pegasus ran away into the dark woods, before the captain chased after her. She ran almost blindly, as the rain and tears blurred her vision. The captain was surprised by the agility of the creature, as it weaved between the trees and jumped over the rocks. "Stop! Stop!" Rainbow Dash ignored his commands and continued to run. Soon, she could hear the captain was right behind her. She flapped her wings in a desperate attempt to fly away, but she couldn't summon enough strength to hoist her weight into the air. She was then tackled to the ground, and she flailed wildly as she was held down, trying to push the captain off her. She began to use her legs to firmly buck the captain in the stomach, and she continued to struggle on the muddy ground as the rain soaked her fur, matting her mane to her forehead. "Let go! Let me go!" Rage slowly turned into sorrow as she firmly kicked the captain in the stomach one last time before she slumped onto the floor. Rainbow looked into the captain's eyes as he held her down, before Dixion and the rest of the team soon found them in the muddy pit. "Sir! Are you okay? Is everything all right?" "What does it look like?" Rainbow looked over the captain's shoulder to see Andy running towards them, carrying a large blanket. As he knelt beside them, the captain let go of the Pegasus' arms and walked off, clearly angered as he pushed his team away as he walked past. Andy stood over Rainbow before wrapping the warm blanket around her. "Come on. Let's get you back to camp." Rainbow Dash didn't respond. She just stared blankly as she was scooped off the floor and carried out of the dark pit. Andy felt concerned for her as she felt limp in his arms. They walked back to the dark forest as they made their way back to the fire. Andy could feel the small Pegasus shivering in the thick blanket as he jogged back to the camp. Later that night, back at the camp, 4 men sat eating their food as the captain was trying to get a signal to call for help. The soldiers quietly ate their food as they looked at the blue Pegasus in front of them, glaring into their eyes, and that sat next to the fire, still shivering from the cold breeze that surrounded the camp. Andy was first to speak, leaning forward, holding a piece of chopped up apple. You want some?" He threw a piece of fruit in front of her, and she gave it a quick glance before she stubbornly kicked it away. The men looked at each other, unsure of what to do next. Bishop was the next to speak. We never got a chance to introduce ourselves, he said, nudging the soldier to his right with his elbow. I'm Sergeant D. Cole. D is for Daniel, but you can call me Spoonie, because I'm the cook. Rainbow Dash continued to stare bitterly as Cole looked over his teammates, hinting the soldier next to him to speak. I'm L. Bishop. I'm a weapons specialist from Philadelphia. Do you know where Philadelphia is? Okay. This is Private Andy Clarkson. Hey. He's a translator. He can speak 3 different languages: French, German, and Russian. He helps us with communications. Dixion? Dixion? Dixion leaned forward, wiping his weapon with a bloody cloth. He looked at the cyan Pegasus with a stern look on his face. He noticed Rainbow Dash staring at the blood-stained rag in his hands. He stood up, looking into her eyes without warning. He threw to her feet, making the mayor yelp before diving into a bush. What the fuck, man? Bishop yelled before standing up to Dixion. Why did you do that? It's not funny. Sorry. I thought it was funny. Want to try it? Fuck you! Hey! The captain's voice yelled off from a distance. Knock it off! Both of you! I don't want to hear you two bitching all night! Dixion smirked before Bishop shoved Dixion to one side, running to the bush where Rainbow Dash was hiding. Bishop parted the leaves to see the blue Pegasus covering her eyes. Hey, it's okay. Nothing's gonna hurt you. Rainbow Dash peeked through her hooves. Her pupils were pinpricks as she looked at Bishop. He reached into the bush, putting his hand in front of her. Rainbow glanced at his hand before reaching out. Bishop grabbed her hoof before pulling Rainbow Dash out of the bush. She walked past the sergeant, still not breaking the silence, as she walked towards the fire. She tilted her head to look at Dixion, who then smirked at her, and Rainbow Dash quickly looked back at the burning timber before grabbing a blanket with her teeth and pulling it towards the fire. She wrapped it around herself before facing away from the soldiers, looking into the woods. Bishop scowled at Dixion before slowly walking to the Pegasus. He could hear her quietly crying to herself. He sat next to her, looking into the woods. He turned and grabbed a piece of apple from before, dusting off most of the dirt before holding it next to her. I'm sorry about that. Dixion can be a real asshole sometimes. Here. Come on. You gotta eat something. Rainbow Dash looked at the piece of apple before grabbing it with her teeth. She slowly started chewing on the fruit. The taste was pretty plain compared to how the apples tasted back in Equestria, but she savored the flavor, as it was the only thing that reminded her of home. When she was finished eating, she continued to look into the darkness in front of her. Bishop stayed silent, trying not to pressure the pony into saying anything. What happened? Rainbow Dash faintly said. Bishop took a deep breath, thinking of what to say, still astonished by the fact that he was talking to what was basically a small horse. War. People fighting over power. But why? How did it all start? I don't even know anymore. I was just a carpenter when this all started. One day, I woke up, people running out of their homes, packing their things. People screaming, hiding in shelters. It took me 3 days to find out what's going on. By the time I found a place to stay, that was when the bombs started dropping. What happened? I don't know. First, the shelters were blown up, then all the homes were destroyed. Everyone was panicking, stealing food, water, anything that wasn't theirs, they took. When I got to Ohio, I saw these posters saying that they needed soldiers to go to war. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to the nearest recruitment office and signed some papers, and before I knew it, I was fighting for my country against the Japanese. I'm only with these guys because my platoon was wiped out. I was the only one left alive. Lucky me, eh? Rainbow Dash looked out into the sky, looking at the moon, surrounded by thousands upon thousands of stars. She felt empty, as she couldn't help but see those gory images. She shuddered before adjusting the blanket wrapped around her body. Things were so different back at Equestria. Equestria? Is that your home? It's another world. You mean you're not from my planet? No. My home is somewhere out there in the stars. I'm sorry, but I find that hard to believe. Then again, after seeing Talking Horse, nothing can surprise me now. I'm not a horse. I'm a pony. I'm a Pegasus. Sorry, I didn't know. So, what's this planet of yours like? Beautiful. Colorful. A place of magic. A place of peace and harmony. There's never been a war for hundreds of years. Sounds like my kind of place. I should be there. I don't belong here. I gotta get back, but I don't know how I got here. Bishop placed his hand on Rainbow's shoulder, making her flinch. She then laid on the ground as Bishop rested his hand on her back, gently stroking her fur as he looked at the stars. I've never really thought about whether there were any other worlds out there. But if what you're saying is true, then I'm sure if you manage to find a way here, then your friends will find a way to take you back. Damn. All this is making my head spin. You want to go talk with the others? I don't know. Hey, don't worry about Dixion. He's just a dick, who we have the displeasure of working with. He's alright once you get to know him. Come on. Okay. Pollen entering her nose as she tensed her wings, and whoosh! Inches from crashing to the ground, Rainbow Dash pulled out of the deadly nosedive. She leveled out, the tall grass tickling her belly as she looked around for something to do. On the horizon, the clouds parted, revealing a large mountain in the distance. It was strange. Dash had seen it many times, but never thought much of it. Today was different, though. Whether it was because she was bored, or it was the adrenaline rush that had cleared her mind, curiosity, and with nothing else to do, she slowly started to make her way towards it, aiming for the summit. She took her time. She knew it was a long way away, at least 12 miles, so she relaxed, taking in the sights as she made her way towards the large mountain. She looked down. She was above the clouds flying over Sweet Apple Acres. Rainbow Dash could see Applejack below, bucking trees, one after another. The Earth Pony then caught a glimpse of the Cyan Pegasus flying above her. "Howdy!" Applejack shouted. Rainbow Dash didn't hear what the Earth Pony said, so she just returned away before flying off to the distance. She continued to look down at the ground before her head hit something. The impact was soft and seemed to bounce away from her. Rainbow Dash looked up before her eyes widened at the sight of Pinkie Pie in front of her. "Eek!" Pinkie squeaked, floating away into the distance. Rainbow Dash quickly flew to her friend before holding her steady. The Pegasus looked up to see Pinkie with a forest of balloons above her. "Pinkie, what are you doing?" "I just wanted to say goodbye before you went." Why?" Rainbow asked, raising an eyebrow. "My right ear was flopping. That means I have to say goodbye to some pony. But Twilight, Applejack, Fluttershy, and Rarity were at their houses, so I thought, how can I say goodbye to myself? Then I saw you flying over Ponyville, so I grabbed as many balloons as I could, and, well, I'm here. Goodbye, Dashie!" The Pegasus rolled her eyes. She patted her friend on the mane before pushing her back towards Ponyville. Pinky used her legs to face Dash as she flew backwards, away from the Pegasus. Thanks, Pinky, but I'm only going to that mountain. I'll be back soon. Okay, bye. Whoa! The pink pony said, flailing her legs, trying to keep herself steady. Rainbow Dash turned back to her task, and with another firm thrashing of her wings, she set off again. This time, faster than before. She focused on her path, carefully looking for faster routes around the clouds. She thought it would be easier to just fly above the clouds and fly the rest of the way, but where's the fun in that? As the mountain got closer, Rainbow Dash noticed a small light glistening, not too bright, but just enough to get her attention. She adjusted her course and took a deep breath as she slowly made her way towards her destination. She breathed in the crisp morning air as she glided through the clouds, feeling the air caressing her blue coat as she bathed in the warmth of the sun. She closed her eyes as a smile grew across her face. This is the life, she said to herself as she floated through the... Hello? Rainbow Dash opened her eyes to see Sergeant Bishop standing in front of her. She groaned as she was pulled away from her dream. She sat up and rubbed her eyes, looking around her to see the platoon packing their bags and checking their weapons. But what's going on? She coughed, standing up, flapping her wings. We gotta move. The boss said he's found us a way to get back to the base. Rainbow Dash crouched, flexing her legs and forehooves. Her joints clicked and popped with every firm stretch before she stood up and looked up at the sergeant through her ruined mane. She brushed it to one side before turning her head to look at the soldiers, and she noticed they weren't their usual cheerful selves. What's wrong? Rainbow asked, her ears pressed flat against her head. Bishop sighed before kneeling down, almost matching her height. We've just been informed that we can't get an extraction from here. We need to go to a nearby town and get picked up from there. Isn't that a good thing? We have to go through a red zone to get there. A red zone? That's dangerous, isn't it? Bishop stood up and looked around him, before looking down at Rainbow, with dismay in his eyes. Her heart sank, as she could predict what was going. It was not going to be good news. You should get ready. We'll be moving in 10 minutes. The sergeant walked off to his team before Rainbow made her way towards the smoldering ash of the fire she stood next to last night. She followed the smoke as it made its way up into the air, but Rainbow saw past the smoke and found herself looking down the barrel of a gun. Instantly, she was paralyzed with fear as she started to shake uncontrollably. Dixion, what the fuck are you doing? Rainbow Dash watched as the weapon was ripped from her vision. She backed away from the smoke to see the captain holding Dixion by the scruff of his neck. Dixion forced his superior off him before brushing himself off. Just what do you think you're playing at? The captain yelled, just inches in front of the unruly soldier. I'm demonstrating how easily I can see this thing. Look, she'll blow our cover if we go into Norden. I'm just getting a migraine just looking at it. Rainbow's fear turned into rage as she stomped her hoof firmly on the ground, gashing her teeth. It has a name, jerk! Dixion didn't react. He looked at his team, almost as if he was preaching to them. That thing is going to expose us, and, from where I'm standing, we're hardly blending in as it is. We don't need this bitch, so why the fuck are we protecting it? Bishop stood and walked past the captain to Dixion, squaring him up. Are you fucking retarded? It's not that we don't need her. She needs us, you selfish prick. It's a soldier's duty to protect the innocent. You're talking as if she's human. She has wings. Why doesn't she just fly away, huh? Where would I go? Rainbow wailed, instantly silencing the standoff. The two soldiers didn't break eye contact, as Rainbow Dash began to break down in tears once again. Where would I go? I can't go home. I don't even know where the heck I am. I'm staying with you because you're the only guys I know who haven't tried to kill me. I don't want to be here. I hate this world. I hate being all scared all the time. I hate this war. Bishop was first to break eye contact, walking towards Rainbow Dash. He could feel the eyes of every soldier looking at him as he walked towards the Cyan Pegasus. He then kneeled down and looking into those magenta eyes before turning to his captain. I'm not leaving her behind, Captain. You know as well as I do that she wouldn't last a second out there. The captain looked at Bishop, and then he looked at Rainbow Dash. There was no way she could tell what he was thinking. Of all ponies and creatures she had met, the captain, no doubt, had the best poker face she had ever seen. He then picked up a large bag off the ground and threw it at Bishop's feet. You empty that bag. She can ride it. She can ride out in there as we walk across Norden. Unless you have a better idea. Thank you, sir. Now come on, everyone. We're already late. Move your asses. The soldiers continued to pack their things as Dixion gave Bishop a menacing scowl before turning to his bag. Bishop turned to Rainbow Dash. She leaned forward and wrapped her hooves around his neck, nuzzling his shoulder as tears began to soak his shirt. Thank you. Thank you. She let go of his neck before sitting to the ground, and Bishop gave her a sly smile before grabbing his bag. As he opened it, Rainbow could see there was not much inside. He pulled out some ammo, a small black book, before tipping out the rest of the junk inside onto the ground. Bishop then held the book in his hand, looking at it before looking at Rainbow Dash. What? Rainbow said. What is it? I never got your name. Rainbow Dash. Really? Alright. Come on. Let's get going.